just load it up here on all the platforms. There we are. All right, everybody, welcome to the newest masterclass in the Just Sell method. We are here today with Casey. He is going to be talking to us about offers and upsells. This has got to be one of the hottest areas I know that we cover with a lot of new agency owners. So I'm very excited to cover this today in our masterclass series. Casey, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so
you guys
excited.
are so awesome. I'm happy to be here.
Oh, you're so sweet. Casey and I have known each other before the 7-figure agency days.
Yeah.
He's just an amazing guy. So this was, I think, a natural pairing for us to hang out together. So I'm excited. Maybe you could give a background of where you're at with your agency, and then we'll dive into a lot of the teaching topics.
Yeah, for sure. So like you said, I'm part of 7-figure agency mastermind, that whole program. So we're on our way to 7 figures. That's the goal. we're about halfway there right now. MRR is sitting around 40K.
Right.
And we're a full service agency with a focus on Facebook ads. And we have a couple niche agencies in the works that are being built up, but we have a generalist agency that's full service.
So cool. Yeah. And Facebook ads, I'm sure everybody was like, what? Because I think we come from different sides of this world, right? We play in the Google space, you play in the Facebook space. When I heard Casey's offer, I knew he was the perfect person for this session because I was like taken aback, like, holy cow, how do you promise that? So that's what we're going to cover today. It's just these amazing offers that you're going to be able to close deals on and deliver on, which I think we'll cover as well. So Casey, let's get started talking about how people are going to formulate research, like really start wrapping their minds around this. When we start thinking about like a new agency owner, this is where I often find they get stuck in the process because they want to be able to pitch something that is irresistible. But at the same time, I think they're very nervous. Can they deliver on this?
Yeah.
So let's start there.
Yeah, I think it's, it's important to know the product that you're selling, right? You have to be able to you have to know what you're doing to really give like a super irresistible guarantee, right? That's the big thing. So you kind of touched on what our offer is. I'm guessing you're probably thinking the 100 leads in 30 days guaranteed.
It's huge.
Yeah. So we can dive deeper into that, but that's a big one. So we guarantee 100 leads in 30 days, no matter what. And part of that is you need to anticipate what the lead cost is going to be for your clients in order to guarantee that, right? So it's a semi-conditional guarantee in the sense that they need to be able to afford those leads.
Got it. So when you were putting this together, I'd assume you kind of did the math on that. Like they're going to have to spend this much in order to get that. So how do you work that into your offer?
So it varies based off of the niche, which is why it's like I don't necessarily offer that to every single client that comes our way, but I always keep it in my back pocket for the ones that I know I can slam dunk on. Like for sure, we can make it happen. So like one of our niches is the wedding industry. And I can get on Facebook ads consistently leads for recently engaged couples anywhere from $3 to $5 a lead. Like we've got it dialed. Wow. So I know that with a low budget, they can come in and I can guarantee 100 leads, no question. So, but it also comes down to the market size and where they're at, right? There has to be enough people in the pool for a local service-based business to be able to drive that lead cost down.
That's very true. And I see based on the niches, because we're a generalist, we serve all of them.
Sure.
Also depends, I think, on the mindset of the consumer, right? Weddings, we think, of course, they're going to be on social, Pinterest, like all these areas.
Yeah.
But in terms of like the service-based businesses or manufacturing, like areas where we don't necessarily know those people are going to be ready to convert, are there any niches that you feel like you would stay away from in your space with Facebook? Have you seen any work better than others?
I mean, definitely some work better than others. The higher the ticket, it tends to be a higher lead cost, but we also work with wedding venues and those are $5,000 plus on average, and we're still getting $5 leads. So, it depends on the value that you provide. And I think that's really the most important thing is what's the offer on the front end to generate those leads.
Right. So as we're getting into this, market research, it sounds like is very important. What competitors are. What did you do in terms of figuring out, okay, my competitors offer this, here's what I want to be able to basically beat them out with?
Yeah. So, in the landscape of a generalist agency, There's a lot of people that are coming in that are niche specific, to go after chiropractors, restaurants, you name it. They're getting hit up with cold email, right? So for the most part, what I did was I tried to I observed the space first and foremost and looked at what every other agency was doing. And I tried to be as far away from that as possible. So, yeah, I mean, you're a marketing agency, you need to know how to market yourself, right? And you need to know how to position yourself, because if you don't, then how is a client going to trust you to position their business in the marketplace as well, right? So you have to put yourself through that perspective and think about it the same way. So I would look at, I got cold emails all the time for agencies. My agency started as a hospitality group marketing team. We started out as like an in-house team. And then we just shifted into an agency a couple of years ago. But while I was in that hospitality group as the head of that department, we got a ton of emails coming in. And I was able to see firsthand what everybody was trying to pitch. And it was horrible. Like, it's so bad what people put out there. So, that was a really good way to kind of see what the landscape even looked like. And then I just tried to distance myself as far from that as possible. So everybody's basically like, hey, give me a lot of money and you'll maybe get results.
Right.
That's generally speaking the offer that's out there. And then good old Hormozy came around with a little book that some people might know. I've got it here because who am I to talk about offers if you don't plug this book, right? So if you haven't, read it for sure. I can give as much insight as possible, but he goes so deep and does it so well that you have to read that book if you're serious about offers.
Got it. What are your biggest takeaways from that book? Like high level, three top tips.
Number one is have a really strong guarantee and put your skin in the game, because if you don't, why would anyone else?
Yeah.
Okay. But you have to have that confidence in your offer to know, like, I can execute on this and I'm willing to put my money where my mouth is in order to make that happen for you. Right. The second one is there was a strong exercise in there where once you identify your audience, you have to list out all of their problems and then turn those problems into solutions that you provide. That was a big one. And then aside from that, the other takeaway wasn't actually in that book. He did a gym launch secrets book or something before this that's like super little, like lesser known for sure. But check it out on Amazon. There's a lot of like pricing psychology in that book that's really good. Okay. So I'd highly recommend that.
That's cool. That's super cool. So now that you've done your research and you kind of see what everybody else is offering, that leads us into how are you going to execute on this offer that you've now developed. So in your own research and your own strategy, how did you guys come up with this? How are you able to actually, like the first client you ever threw this out to, how comfortable were you that you were going to deliver on that?
So uncomfortable.
I was wondering.
It's so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
So, you do all this work, you try and get your clients on a call, right? And you're like, oh my God, okay, hopefully this works, right? Like, hopefully I can close a deal. And our offer is basically, I'll just say it for full transparency. It's basically $12.95 a month with a 3-month minimum agreement. We guarantee 100 leads in the first 30 days or your money back. Okay. And that's for Facebook ads alone. And when we were kind of playing around with it, I started with like, all right, it's a $500 one-time setup and then only pay me if leads come in. We tried that for a little bit.
Okay.
That was good. We closed a ton from that. But the problem with it was we had too many low budget people that just weren't buying enough leads to make it worth it for us. Because when you launch Facebook ads, you got to optimize them. You got to manage them, right? So it's not just set it and forget it. But we had people that were really like, oh, 20 leads. I'm like, no, I need like 100 minimum, right? So that was kind of the issue. So we just tested a bunch of different ways and different little angles, and we got to where we are now with it. And it's pretty much if I get on a call and I'm pitching this, we usually have, I would say, probably like a 70 to 80% close ratio.
That's awesome. Yeah. Wow. And the first time you told me, I was like, you should take my money. Maybe you should. No, that's good. I think that comfort level is so important because it is all psychological. And I think that we all have to understand that your offer will it'll change. Like over time, we've done the same thing where we throw something out, we just kind of see what it does and who it attracts. And then you refine it over time until you really dial it into what you want it to be. And you have to get over that hump. Like there's fear, I think, that a lot of people are experiencing and like afraid to push it out, but you have to do it, right? You have to take action on it. Otherwise you're not going to know whether or not it's worthy of something.
It's the same way, like we test for our clients, we'll test, you know, most people set up anywhere from 1 to 5 different versions of a Facebook ad. We test like 200. So that's part of our system. We run a ton of different creative and we test everything, and it's ongoing testing at all times. And it's the same idea with the offer. Is you want to put as many versions out of it into the world and then use the data to make your decision and then scale it.
Right. That totally makes sense. And we'll touch, I think, a little bit on how you're able to track and monitor performance.
Sure.
To be able to, know whether or not you guys are delivering on that. I want to talk about the language that you use in offers. Because I'm the same way. I get tons of cold email, lots of people throwing numbers my way. And there's definitely an approach on how you should do it and how you shouldn't do it. I know we touched on this a little in the last masterclass where it was like building a relationship, but the language you use in an offer, assuming you haven't ever met this person, how do you suggest people go about formulating that?
I think it depends on where you're stating the offer. I do think that a common mistake is most people try to sell via cold email right away. Like they're putting the offer in their initial outreach. Definitely not the way to do it. I don't tell anybody my offer until I'm face-to-face with them on a call.
Okay.
It's not listed anywhere. I want the opportunity to navigate objections, any obstacles that come up on that sales conversation. I want to be able to talk them through that. But most importantly, I want to make sure that it's a good fit for me and my agency. Right. And I don't want other people making that decision on my behalf. I want to be able to make that decision myself. So if I get on a call with somebody and I realize they're not a good fit for us, or they just don't have a budget that's going to make sense and actually going to help them, then I'll lead them in another direction and go from there. But I prefer to have control over what the offer is. So it's kind of dynamic on the call. So I know if I need to pull that 100 leads in 30 days guarantee, or if I should go with like a 90-day satisfaction guarantee instead, so that I can be dynamic with who I'm talking to and kind of tailor that conversation based off of their needs and their goals and what's going to resonate with them the most. Do they want a quick win, or do they want long-term stability? And that's going to kind of navigate what path I take to make them feel comfortable.
Do you usually, I know you've got 2 that you have. Do you usually, are there times where you don't provide either one of those? Like if you don't think that they're going to be a good fit?
Yeah, for sure. Big ones are like if you have to run an ad in a special ad category. So like if it's like a mortgage lender or some sort of financial like loan thing, that's a big one. Those leads cost a fortune, and being able to really dial that in and guarantee leads, I just don't do it. If I tend to pretty much always, I'd be willing to do like a 90-day satisfaction guarantee. And that one's super simple. If you're not happy 90 days in, let me know. We'll make it right. Super simple. So sorry if there's noise in the background right now.
Good. In terms of the, just we talk a little bit about pushing this out to the right people, and making sure that the offer appeals to whatever I assume their pain point really is, which allows you guys to tailor this. I think for this side of things, I see a lot of people trying to put these offers in their banners of their website. You just mentioned, which I think is so important, you're not going to give it to them until you're like voice to voice, face to face, which is where a lot of people, I think, connect, right? We're the same way. Like I meet every agency partner that ever signs up with us, unless they, just manage to get through the process without me, because I'm doing the same thing, right? I'm vetting them, I'm connecting with them. So it's very interesting because I still see so many people put up, if we took yours, it would be like 100 leads in 30 days on their website banners. So you're advising like maybe keep that.
Well, we've tried it. And, I think a lot of people don't understand that from a client perspective, if you see something with a comma in it for a price tag and you're working with a small local business, they might be looking for something that's under $1,000. to get started, right? And if my pricing is $12.95 a month, that alone might deter them. But by having a conversation with me, I can bump them up a couple $100 in their budget and show them why it's worth it. And then that can have a bigger impact on their business than them making the decision for themselves to just like disqualify themselves because it's out of their budget that they're going in with, right? So a lot of times they just need to have the conversation to understand, like, we know what we're doing, we guarantee the results, here's all of our case studies, here's what we've done in the past, and if you're not happy, you'll get your money back. Super simple.
That's huge. And I think the experience guarantee that you have, we also have something like that, which is really been helpful. At the end of the day, I think it's actually great for any agency because the risk of a bad review because of a bad experience, in my opinion, will never be
worth it.
Just give them their money back.
Yeah.
So it's kind of an easy one. With you guys, do you have any stipulations on that? So if someone was to do the same thing and emulate like more of an experience guarantee, what would you say are kind of your tips on formulating what that looks like?
Yeah, you can do it both ways. We don't put stipulations on it because I'm confident that, if after 90 days of working together, if you genuinely don't want to work with us, chances are we don't want to work with you either at that point, and if that's the case, then cool. Let's go our separate ways. Let's not extend this beyond what it needs to be. And we'll have everybody kind of end that path clean. And, it is what it is.
Yeah.
But you could put stipulations on it. Like I've also tried, if you keep the wording generic to where if you don't see an increase in impressions, website traffic, leads, or sales, and you put it or instead of and, then you can qualify that guarantee based off of any of those. Yeah. So if you're running Facebook ads and you don't see website traffic, you didn't run ads, right? So putting a condition on that, you can run it that way. And then for the leads guarantee, where it's 100 leads in 30 days, that is conditional on the fact that they need to be able to afford those 100 leads. So if we identify the lead cost is $5 and they can't afford $500 in ad spend, then my guarantee becomes a wash.
Yeah. And that's so important to communicate that with them.
Yeah.
But that's huge. So let's talk about one other type of offer, which is going to be the foot in the door for some people, especially as they're getting started. There's there's a comfort level on having an offer that you throw your name on. There's also a comfort level in the price points people are pitching. And I find that newer agency owners aren't quite comfortable yet throwing down, the $2,500 offer out there.
Sure.
So maybe talk people through how to create that foot in the door offer.
I think it's going to come down to your audience that you're trying to hit and the niche that you want to operate in. If you're kind of in the generalist space, then, that's also going to come with its own kind of challenges. But generally speaking, you want to try and come up with something that's a couple $100. And the thought process with that is, you want to get them in with a hook and show them what you can do and produce quick wins for the client. And then on the back end, you have an upsell that's more in that $1,000, $2,500. We have options $5,000 and $10,000 a month that you can hit if you want to for the full service side. So the upsell potential on the back end is really unlimited in what you can do. But that front end offer, we've tested quite a few of those, and there's a lot that you could do there.
Yeah, for sure. We did the same thing. We have a couple of smaller price points with certain products, like our websites, and we've done SEO audits and things like that. And we found that the websites stick because it's something they keep, and it's something that you obviously delivered a great experience on, and it's producing something tangible, right? They to have it. So that ended up being, I think for us, it's stronger than any type of foot in the door where it's like that guarantee of leads or that guarantee of performance, especially in digital marketing, where it's like just the emotional roller coasters of dealing with Facebook and Google and all those fun platforms. So yeah, how did you guys kind of tailor that? You leverage a website product yourself. And so how do you actually pitch that to people? If they come to you and you feel them out and you're like, okay, I can maybe use the offer. Let's say they don't have enough money. Is that when you come in with the foot in the door, or where do you kind of put that in your own process?
Yeah. So we use it as a downsell and just like the initial offer that we go for. In my world, working with more of the full service stuff, my $12.95 ads offer kind of is my foot in the door offer. That's these days. I didn't always start there, right? But yeah, and if that's not a good fit, then we look at their website and we say, hey, well, if you still want to make a big impact, in 30 to 45 days, which is your guys' timeline at 51 blocks, we can get a website done for you and completely refresh the brand, make it look great, and that can kind of act as the foundation for everything else that you do with marketing once you're ready, right?
Yeah.
And Facebook ads usually go to a lead form or the website. SEO obviously happens on the website. There's a lot of stuff that website can act as the foundation for. So if you downsell to that, if your first price doesn't have a comment in it, then we sell authority websites. We resell that for $500 a month, and that's like
huge,
solid price point.
I was gonna say for an agency, that's like easy money too. So it's
easy,
amazing.
Yeah.
Very cool. That's very cool. Well, talk to us about some of the common barriers that people are going to face when they're pitching their offers. So now we've developed it. Someone was like, all right, I'm going to throw it out there. Now, what are some of the common barriers that you encounter or that you have encountered, and how to get around those when you're in those calls?
I think just as an agency owner, I mean, I am super guilty of this. My ops director will probably be laughing right now. I think he's listening on this, but even down to like last night, I still will text him with just random ideas for an offer. And I'm like, what do you think? Like, should we do this? Should we, pivot to this or that or whatever? And you always go into analysis paralysis with it. Mm-hmm. And I think that is by far the biggest obstacle to overcome as an agency owner, is getting stuck. Okay. So once you get a little bit of traction with something, just go all in on it and scale that as much as you possibly can. And if you have a partner or an ops director or somebody on your team that can kind of keep you in line when you go into shiny object syndrome, highly recommend that.
It's very real. I sit in a weird seat now as a CEO, because that was me. Like,
I
was always doing that to Michael.
You got to do that for yourself now, right? Yeah. So, having that accountability, because he straight up put me in line yesterday. I loved it. I was like, yes, you did such a good job, dude. Like I'm like, yes, that's exactly what I needed. So, having that person in place is super important. And it can be like your significant other or something. If you don't have somebody on your team, if you're a small team, a friend or a significant other, to be like, no, just focus. Like, you have something here. This is something that's helping people. And I think that's really kind of the gauge, is like, is what you do, is it actually having an impact for your clients? Mm-hmm. And if it is, then do everything you can to focus all of your attention there, get the most impact for the most people, and then go test other stuff.
Right. That totally makes sense. There's almost an ascension model too, I think, with your offers.
For sure.
And we can definitely touch on that. I want to talk about tracking and monitoring now. So we've got our offer out, someone closed, and now it's time to execute. Yeah. What do you guys do in order to keep tabs on performance? Does your offer also ever not apply? So maybe you got someone in, you got their 100 leads in 30 days, and now it's like the rest is history. You just kind of roll from there on out. How does that work at your agency?
It depends on what they end up doing, but we generally speaking have like two tiers that we aim for. A majority of our clients will fall into one of two buckets. They're either at the $12.95 ads offer, or they're at $5K a month in full service. And that's usually where we land on stuff. We have the occasional downsell, we have the occasional upsell beyond that. But for the most part, it's a very systematized offer. Like, even worse, full service, that doesn't mean you get unlimited marketing, right? It's a very systematized structure. Like, they get four emails a month, 12 AI generated blog posts, things like that we pull in, 12 Google listing posts a month, defined social media postings, all that stuff. It's very clearly structured and defined all the way through it. And then we have like a Google Ads upsell that isn't a part of the full service. It's an extra $500 a month if you want it, kind of deal. Cool. But for the most part, I guess to answer your question, it's going to come down to what path they take. The $12.95 offer being our core thing, it's pretty easy to track, because that's like the one offer that no matter what, everybody is on. Even if they're full service, they still get that $12.95 offer as the foundation. And then everything else we build on top of that. That's
cool. Do you guys keep your whole team kind of in the loop of what offer, what bucket they belong to, so that way they're kind of aware as well?
Yeah. It's all tagged in our ClickUp system. So that's cool. We use ClickUp to manage everything. And if they're at the core offer, they get tagged as that. And if they're full service, they get tagged as full service.
Awesome. You hit on one specific topic. I want to talk about this because it's hot right now. AI, you mentioned that you guys provide AI blog posts. In terms of the offer, I'm seeing more AI like in the offers themselves. Like somehow this becomes now like more of a competitive advantage. I'd love to know your thoughts on this, because even I sat there and I thought, oh, are we supposed to say that we now have this AI, like website building, I think is actually going to be the next thing.
For sure.
It's over by AI, right? So my team right now is sitting there like understanding, okay, how do we incorporate this to speed up delivery time so that we can actually kind of leverage some of this? But I just love to know your thoughts, because it's becoming more and more prevalent in offers. How do you guys work that in, or how are you guys thinking about that?
So we position it as we use cutting edge technology and approaches and strategies that's, evergreen in that sense. So AI to me is a shiny object, and I try to be careful with shiny objects. But it doesn't mean that it's not going to be around for the long term. I do think that AI is definitely, it's a new part of marketing that is going to be around for a very, very long time, and it's going to have a huge impact. So there's no doubting that, in my opinion. But in terms of like making it front and center, that's not, like, we don't want to be an AI automation agency. I do not want to ever position ourselves as that. But what I do say in sales conversations is, we use AI to test rapidly. So I'm very open with the fact that all of our ad copy, this is part of how we can test 200 versions of an ad versus the usual 5, right? And that becomes a massive competitive advantage, because when you're testing 200 ads at scale, what we're able to do is pull all of the winning elements, the headlines, the ad text, the creative. We pull all that, and then I can get a cost per lead from $30 down to $3, because I'm identifying so many winning elements and optimizing the absolute crap out of that ad by the time it goes live at scale, right? And once we have that data, I even use AI to analyze that data and give me the best results possible before we even go in to building. So I think that's a big thing. But it's mostly in the sales conversations. I don't really put it front and center too much, but there's nothing wrong with doing it. I think the biggest thing to remember with it is don't get stuck on it and try to figure out how to like make that front and center if it's naturally a part of what you do.
And I think to clients, maybe end clients, right? So we're thinking small business owner, they almost think, well, it should be cheaper, right? You guys are using a robot, so why should I pay so much for this?
No way. No way.
and so that's, that's another reason why we've done the same. Like, I'm very open about the way that we strategize or what we leverage with it, because it's incredibly powerful. But I do think that like, I got one today about an AI platform, and I was like, wait a minute, that's not even true. And I could spot it. Obviously, I work in the industry, but like, it was just the language they were using with the offer. And I thought that was really curious. I'm like, you're kind of just playing off what's trendy right now with the word or the term AI, right?
And I think the key when you're talking to end clients is you have to, if you do use it in your messaging, you have to position it as you're not getting the same thing as everyone else for the same price as everyone else with me doing 1/10 of the work. You're getting 10x the output for the same price as what you're paying anyone else, right? And that's really where it comes into my 200 ad testing thing. Like, we go crazy with that. And not many people even know where to begin. If I were to ask, a majority of agency owners, how many ads do you test? I can almost guarantee you that I would say 90% of them would say less than 10.
For sure.
And if you go apples to oranges in comparison, if one client is having multiple agency conversations, we come into that conversation and say we test 200, 300 at a time. That's a big deal, right? And that's a huge competitive advantage for us that we wouldn't have without AI.
Right. That's for sure. Oh, wow. That's cool. So let's talk about the Ascension model and upsells. Because we definitely want to talk about where this can lead. So you get them in the door. Now they're super happy. What are the next steps in continuing to keep them excited at the agency?
It's really customer touch points. What we do is the first 30 days that somebody's with us, we have weekly calls. And then after that, depending on where they're at with results, we'll either move to biweekly or monthly at that point. But it really comes down to customer touch points and the cadence that you kick off a conversation or a customer relationship with. I think that's really important. We've had clients, like one of my more recent clients that started with us a couple months ago, when we were like, yeah, so I think we're in a really good place. Let's go ahead and move to monthly calls. Like, no, we're going to miss you guys. Like, that's the,
oh, that's so good though.
That's the relationship that you want,
Yeah.
though, right? And, I don't know if that client's ever going to turn into full service, but we're doing everything we can to help them get to that point. And I think that's the key, right? You need to have that cadence in the relationship with people, but ultimately it comes down to, do you genuinely care enough to want to help them get to the point where they can pay you more money?
Right.
And you have to genuinely care. Like if we're talking going from $1,000 a month to $5,000 a month, and that's before ad spend, right? For a lot of small businesses, that's a big chunk of change, But if we're doing everything in our power to go above and beyond at every touch point that we have with that client, we make them feel heard, we address their concerns, we make sure that their needs are being met, and most importantly, they're getting ROI, right? That's the number one metric. If they're not getting ROI, they will never spend more money with you.
Yeah, for sure.
So we do everything we can to get quick wins in those first 30 days. Usually with our Facebook ads offer, we can do that. That's basically buying the rapid results with Facebook ads. And then that just kind of lays the foundation after the first 30 days for us to upsell on the back end later. And that's why we do 3-month agreements and 1-year agreements. That's like the sweet spot for us.
That's very cool. That's very cool. You hit on so many good things there. Like the level of customer service is so important. We have that same philosophy at our agency. It's like they can tell when you're being genuine or not, right? They feel it.
Yep.
And sometimes I felt like the relationship, because it can be so strong, is what's going to get you through periods when there might not be the best performance, right?
Yeah.
We're also the same way in terms of an ROI focus. I actually just had this talk with a partner. He's charging his home service client, they do like design builds, $1,000 a month for SEO. And he's never formulated the ROI from it. And I'm like, easy, right? I mean, how many leads do they need to close to be able to show this? Like, it's an easy win here.
Yeah.
And it's stuff like that I think you lose sight of when you're micro focused on other things. And so those are all really good things to keep tabs on for sure with your team. And that's, because that's what we do around here, which I think has really helped build a lot of good relationships for us, for sure.
100%.
And yeah, and I think likewise, use data to drive the conversation around upsells. And then it doesn't feel salesy. Like that's the biggest thing. I hate that when I get, we use a lot of tools and I get that from them. And it doesn't feel like they even looked into our account, or it doesn't feel like they actually paid attention to what we need. They just like throw something at us.
Yeah.
So the data really does help, because now you're saying like, hey, here's how I think we can help you even more.
Yeah.
And here's why. So that's such a solid point in terms of the upsell. Well, I know we've covered a lot of ground here. Is there anything else that you want to give people in terms of your tips for this?
Yeah, I think with the upsell stuff, like if you have a core offer, let's say, it's between $1,000 and $2,500 a month or something. If you're interested in going with a full service, like upsell path, if that's the direction that you want to head in, I think really kind of being the champion for your client and cheering them on to help them get to that full service level is kind of a goal that you can share with the client, right? Mm-hmm. So you use that lower ticket offer to be like, well, when you're at full service and when you guys are ready to move to full service, this is why that's going to be a benefit to you, right? And you kind of frame it as a goal that both of you guys are reaching together. It doesn't even feel like a sale at that point. And it's honestly not. It's really like, hey, we want to help you get to the point where you can afford this easily. Once you hit that point, the power of this unlocks and it goes crazy at that point, right? Yeah. And if you can frame it in that way, it's not even sales. Mm-hmm. It's you're building a long-term relationship with the client and you're helping them get to a point where they can unlock even more growth for their business. Yeah. And if you just make that genuine and that's truly your goal, you can make some serious money in the space.
That's cool. That's a win. It definitely extends your lifetime value. Another 100%. Metric that everybody should be keeping tabs on, are the lifetime value of your clients.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. Casey, thank you for being here and
happy to be here.
Tips. This has been so good. So to recap for everybody, if they were just joining us like halfway through, don't get stuck right on what it is, but make sure that you can deliver on it and get it out there and start testing it, making sure that you have a way to track, measure, monitor, that you guys can deliver on it. The easy one is the performance guarantees as far as like experience and making sure that you guys are delivering good quality customer service.
Yeah.
And then also making sure you've got that ascension model. I love that you guys have a downsell offer. You've got your primary. And then for ones that you're thinking, we're going to see how this goes, like you've got something there around customer service, or just working together, right? I think by 90 days too, you guys have, like you said, you've already figured that out. At our agency, it's usually in 30 days. It's like those red flags pop up.
Yeah. I think it's also worth mentioning too, like we do a 90-day minimum for our agreements. And that's because like, we don't really want to work with anyone that isn't at least willing to commit to that. Marketing is not a silver bullet. This stuff takes time. And I'm sure you have those conversations every day, Brittany. But,
it's interesting being a month-to-month agency, I will
Yeah.
say, because we have to really ride on making sure that people set good expectations. It's why we've developed our partner center, so that I've got so much information where people can get the help that they need before they get out in the world and sell. But it's finding good clients, I think, is one of the toughest things to do. But once you find the way to position it and you have a good sense of who people are and what they're interested in, it makes it a lot easier. And it's just practice. Like, it's kind of like what Sean was saying about pitching, right? It's the same idea with your offer. It's practicing it over and over and feeling really confident. Like, you have a level of confidence when you deliver it and you say it that like you're saying, you can knock it out of the park. When you get to that point at your agency, you're ready to scale, because all it takes, at that point, is just getting in front of as many people as possible.
And if you're not comfortable with it, you can turn it into, it's a 90-day program. It's not a monthly service. It's a 90-day program. And we test for the first 30 days and we scale for 30 to 60 days. And then we really throw the gas on at 60 to 90 days. And if you frame it as a program instead of a monthly service, that's a way to work around it. But most of the time when people hit the 90 days with us, then we're able to drop that 1-year commitment with a higher ticket offer on the back end. And it seems less like there's less friction, because people already know we've already produced quick wins. They know what we're capable of doing. They want to work with us for the long term. So an ask for a 1-year agreement isn't that difficult. And, we also have some leeway on that. So if they're like super against a 1 year, then we can, drop the price a little bit, or, drop the 1-year term to a 6-month term if we absolutely have to in certain cases. There's ways to navigate that. But the biggest thing is you want to have that leverage.
Yeah. One last thing, because you and I could probably talk a really long time about this. I was curious to know, with your case studies, because I'd imagine that they kind of showcase what the offer is or how you guys have delivered on it. How powerful have those case studies been for you guys? Do you find that there's actually more power in the conversation, or is it showing those case studies to people?
I think it depends on the person that you're talking to. People have different decision-making flows, right? Some people really care about, let me see the data, or let me see results, or let me talk to your past clients. I've had that a couple times. That one, I don't like that one. It just opens Pandora's box. Not that our clients would say anything bad about us. I'm sure everyone would say great things, but the case studies are just a way to just like, I'm not just selling you right now. Like, this is real, actual, tangible results. And I work that into every conversation that I have from a sales perspective. And I try to make it the most relevant case study to the situation that they're in. So my sales script is not a script. It's an outline. It's a framework. It's something that I follow, and I tailor that conversation specific to the prospect every time I have the conversation. So it's different every time. And I also record all my sales calls and look back. And if something works really well, I'll play that back and works as a great training SOP. And I can take little pieces and nuggets from stuff. And if I'm like, ooh, that definitely didn't land, then I never say it again.
Well, that's funny. That's good advice. I should probably use that on my sales calls.
Yes.
That's very cool. Very cool. Okay. I was wondering how you do that. And do you cover the case studies on the calls, or do you send it after? You do it.
I try to avoid sending stuff. I try to do, as close to a 1-call close as I can on things, but without being pushy. If somebody genuinely needs to take time, but if they're like, oh, I need to think about it. Well, I'm here right now. What's thinking about it going to do to change anything? Right. Most of what you need to think about is going to come down to a lack of information. You've got your source of information right here. So how can I help you make the decision now?
Right.
And using that kind of language on the call you'll either get a yes or a no without sounding too pushy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think to your very first point that you made in this, you need to know your product. The way that you get as confident as Casey is you understand your product inside and out, because that's how you answer other questions, right? That's how you get to a one-call close, which those feel very nice. I have to say.
It is nice, but you don't start there for sure.
Yeah, lots of practice, lots of trial and error, I think. Very cool. Well, Casey, thank you again for joining us, giving everybody lots of tips, offers, upsells. If you guys have any questions, Casey, where can they reach you?
Craftagenzygroup.com.
Very cool. All right. Well, we'll see you guys next time. Thanks again.